Hello guys, today we are going to talk about a plants versus zombies theory, but not just any theory. What if garden warfare actually is inspired by some events and things from World War II? Am I crazy for thinking about this? Yes, I am. But let's take a closer look and find out the answer, and if all of this bullshit I just said is true. So, to begin with this, I am going to analyze not only the first garden warfare game, but also the second and Battle for Neighborville. But from what I played, BFN seems more like a new polished version of Garden Warfare, so it doesn't have many hints to indicate my theory is true. But I don't give a fuck about that. Now, let's begin. So I went into some key maps to prove my theory, and what I noticed immediately is that the zombies weren't just randomly attacking. They were taking over the towns and neighborhoods that originally belonged to the plants. At this point, there wasn't much propaganda, just the beginning of their conquest. Even here, subtle hints of propaganda already appear. Graffiti, like all your brains are belong to us, shows how the zombies are asserting dominance, warning the plants and anyone who might resist that there will be consequences and that they are prepared for the war. Now, if we look at the next graffiti, we see that leaves are forbidden in this place, and that means that every plant that is in this town is not welcomed anymore, and the zombies will kill every one of it. Still in Garden Center, we can find a sign that says brains is our biz. So this means the zombies are doing experiments on people's brains directly in the Zomboss labs. But in the game, there are no people anymore. So if we dig deeper in this thing, it turns out Zomboss is not getting the brains from people, but from the zombies. Before saying, I am crazy, hear me out. The zombies were once humans, so they still have a brain, and that is why the lab has the address on it. Zombies go in there and give their brains to him. This was my theory, so I don't know if it is true. Don't come at me saying I am lying because this is what I think. Now, in Crash Course, we know the zombies' plane crashed right on the field, and inside the cockpit, we can find a normal poster saying how to fly a plane. This is normal. But if you look closely, you can see it says, explode. So the zombies had bombs in the plane, or were directly going to explode it and sacrifice themselves or the plane. And that is exactly what happened. The zombies exploded the plane next to the course, and that is the reason the plane is there. But on the other side of it, we can find another poster saying dangerous goods. And there is a phone, knife, of course, no plants. I think poison or gas. Fertilizer, so they will not fertilize the plants, or I don't know what, and a cat. Did y'all know they are scared of cats? That is the reason why they are dangerous and not allowed on the plane. On the map Zomboss Estate, we can find in front of Zomboss's base or house, I don't know what it is, a statue that shows him holding the world. This is meant to mean that he has the world in his hands, or more simply, he is the leader of the world. Like he conquered everything and owns the world, and who wanted to conquer everything and rule the world. Of course, Adolf Hitler. So, Zomboss is like the Hitler of Plants vs. Zombies. But we will get to that in Chapter 2, that is Garden Warfare 2. On the map port Scallywag, we get to see the bad side of the plants. Here, we can find Chomper's store that may seem normal, but if looked closer, we can see the zombie hand. This means that they sell zombie flesh and parts for eating. Like, okay, I get it. Chomper eats zombies, but still, this is illegal, so yeah. The plants also have the fault in this war. Not only the zombies. Oh, and yeah, here is Greg's Goon's monkey farm. On every Wunsel, we need to go there. Back to the theory, we can see that the fortress that is under the zombies' control used to be from the plants, but they conquered it also. And damn. Look at what hole they did to get in there. We can also see that the zombies have their own war flag that is just a zombie head. Not so special. But inside the fortress, there is a statue of a pirate zombie that tells us the zombies own the port also. And for the last map from Garden Warfare 1, we have Chomp Town. Here we can find a graffiti saying zombies are the winner. Which is actually true because they own most of the cities and town in the first game. I also found this advertising for Uncle Boz that says hair today, gone tomorrow. Thought it was funny, so I put it in here. I found this statue of Crazy Dave that proves us he is just dumb as a rock and a dictator like Zomboss. It is because he uses Chomper as a horse for the statue, but mainly because he makes his plants fight the zombies and doesn't care about them. Yeah guys, the raw truth exposed. Get out, boy. And lastly, before going to Chapter 2, we need to talk about the characters. The others are normal. But Foot Soldier, He is a direct copy of a World War II soldier. But yeah, these are the design for soldiers, so we cannot make him directly a Nazi. Now we go to Chapter 2. Okay, so we finally got to Chapter 2. In this chapter, we will see the war in Zombies' army at its peak, but also the downfall. We will study the downfall of the zombies and make this theory have sense. After Zomboss's victories in Garden Warfare 1, he held a speech at the Zombie Academy where he praises the zombies and the victory over the plants' towns. This cutscene can be unlocked in Turf Takeover on the Zomberbia map if zombies win. So this means this is the canon ending for Takeover and the peak of Zomboss and his army. Now, who do y'all think had a speech after justifying the invasion? Adolf Hitler. Zomboss's speech is like Hitler's Reichstag speech. They both praised their army, actions, and both blamed the enemy. This makes our theory become stronger as Zomboss becomes and gets the ideology of Hitler. Now, let's analyze what both sides have to offer. If we go through the backyard on the zombies' side, we can see many Nazis or war propaganda. If we look at this poster, it says the boss is watching. The boss is watching posters in the backyard are direct parodies of Orwell's 1984 slogan, which itself was inspired by the propaganda of dictators like Hitler. It's another example of how PvZ uses real-world totalitarian imagery to frame Zomboss as a dictator figure like Hitler. We can see that the whole zombie part is constantly monitorized by Zomboss to make sure no zombie will betray him. The victory poster next to the camera is a direct parody of real World War II propaganda. The Nazis used similar imagery to promise global domination. PvZ hides real war references in plain sight. This adds to the theory of Zomboss and his army being like the Nazis. Posters like The Future is Zetek show how Zomboss uses propaganda to glorify his vision of a technological future under his rule. This mirrors real-world wartime propaganda, where leaders like Hitler and Stalin promised that their nation's futures depended on industry, technology, and obedience to the state. In both cases, the message is clear. Follow the leader, and you'll be part of a powerful, unstoppable machine. At this point, we can just give Zomboss the mustache and we are finished. But we need to uncover everything, so I can prove y'all I am not a dumbass. Here, we can see the zombies have their own version of Heil Hitler and another message next to it to inspire fear. The poster, No Breaks. Keep working reflects Nazi Germany's labor propaganda. Just as German workers were pressured to meet production quotas for the war effort, Zomboss demands that his zombie army works tirelessly for his conquest. It's another nod to the authoritarian control of the Axis powers hidden inside the game's humor. Here, we can see the zombies have around their base chemicals, which, if we think about it, it might be toxic. What is toxic? Chemicals? What chemicals did Nazis use in World War II? Gas. So, the zombies have gas around their base that I think they used in their park, because the air is so green there. Another myth, busted. On the plants side, posters like Resist Decay, Grow Today show how the plants are encouraged to fight back and persevere under pressure. This mirrors Soviet propaganda during World War II, where citizens were urged to resist Nazi occupation, maintain morale, and continue contributing to the war effort. Here, the plants embody that same spirit of resilience and resistance. We can see in the plant space that they have posters that are used to encourage others to join them in the fight. But still, in the base, we can see the zombies booth that says, I want you for the Z Army. This is another propaganda that was used by more countries to encourage people to join their military and serve their motherland. There is this town hall meeting agenda that says they need to stop the war. This means the plants don't want this war because it is destroying the neighborhood. Now, let's get to the tactics and lore and finish this story for good. We will watch the beta trailer, and I will explain the 4 key parts that indicate the peak of the zombies' army, and the beginning of their biggest war with the plants. In this scene, we can see that Zomboss has a very big army. So big that he hid it in a bunker or place underground. We don't know the exact location, but we can see that the zombies were very advanced. They had many things like rockets, blimps, and more. Now, let's get to the next scene. Now, here we can actually make something up. My theory is that the weeds are the war prisoners that were captured by the zombies, and the plants are spying on them. To find a way to take the weeds out, I think Zomboss injected something in the weeds to make more zombies for his army. This brings us to the Zomboss labs from Garden Warfare 1. In the last scene, we can see the Zombot, The Zombot is actually the ultimate weapon that should have been used by Zomboss if he wanted to win, but he didn't use it. When we look deeper into the gameplay of Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare, the zombies don't just attack randomly. Their tactics actually line up closely with those of Nazi Germany during World War II. First, the Nazis used a strategy called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Fast, overwhelming attacks that left the enemy with no time to respond. In Garden Warfare, the zombies rush plants in massive waves, trying to overwhelm defenses before they can even grow strong. It's the same principle, just in a more cartoony form. Second, propaganda and indoctrination. Nazi Germany filled the streets with posters and speeches to brainwash their people into loyalty. Zomboss does the exact same thing, flooding the cities with propaganda like "Join the Z Army" or "Big Boss is watching," making sure his zombies stay obedient. Third, occupation and renaming. The Nazis invaded towns and erased the old culture, even renaming places under their control. In the games, the zombies rename plant cities into Zomburbia or Zombopolis, showing they've claimed them as their own. Fourth, surveillance and intimidation. The Gestapo spread fear by watching everyone and crushing resistance. That's exactly what Zomboss's Big Boss is watching posters parody, a reminder that his control is absolute. Fifth, Hitler's obsession with superweapons. The Nazis poured resources into rockets, jets, and massive tanks, hoping for a miracle weapon to win the war. Zomboss mirrors this with his Zombot in Zombopolis, his ultimate plan to crush the plants once and for all. Put all this together, and the zombie army doesn't just look silly. Their strategies and propaganda are a clever parody of Nazi Germany's real tactics during World War II. And now, let's speak about the zombies' downfall. In the turf takeover mode on the map Zombopolis, if the plants have a successful attack, they get to the last part where they need to destroy the Zombot. In the canon, ending the plants actually beat the zombies and destroy the Zombot. And who was inside it? Exactly. Zomboss himself. But he escapes, and we don't hear from him anymore. After Zomboss' disappearance, the zombie army becomes weaker without their leader, and this is how they lose the war. The game doesn't show the winner, but we already figured it out. I will leave the cutscene here so y'all can see. We don't actually get to see Zomboss here, but if he wasn't inside the Zombot, then it means he escaped and hid. Who did that also when he lost the war? Adolf Hitler? Some say he killed himself, some say he went somewhere. We don't know. What we know is this is how Zomboss's plan fails and the plants win the war. Now that we clarified Chapter 2, we will get to Chapter 3. This will be the last chapter before this theory is over. Okay, so this is the last chapter. And yeah, I can say this was my biggest project ever. Like I spent 2 days making this video. Okay, back to the theory. So I have no evidence that BFN is also inspired by World War II because, as I said in the beginning of the theory, this game is a whole new game. Like lore erased and everything. So we will do a summary of what we talked about. Okay, let's begin with the summary. So, in the beginning of Garden Warfare 1, the zombie army made their appearance and started the war. Then, they conquered most of the towns from the plants. This means they won in the first game. Now, in the beginning of Garden Warfare 2, Zomboss has his speech at the Zombie Academy, and the propaganda rises and the army is at its peak. The downfall of the zombies begins when the disaster in Zombopolis happens. The Zombot gets destroyed, Zomboss escapes and disappears. The zombie army loses the war because they don't have a leader anymore. So in Garden Warfare 2, the canon winner is the Plants army. Now, our biggest and final question. The decision, if my theory is true, is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare based of World War II. Well, mostly yes, because of all the details I presented and how Zomboss is acting like Hitler, and the whole game is based on a war. But there is no confirmation from the developers, so everybody believes what they want. If you are like me, then yes. If no, then no. If y'all like this type of videos, tell me and I will make more, and have a great day.